most people spend months researching just one pair of adjustable dumbbells. I spent the last year buying 7. From $1,000 premium sets to the no-name Alibaba Wildcards. I've realized something. The best set of adjustable dumbbells doesn't exist, but the right one for you definitely does. Today, I'm putting all 7 to the test to see exactly which one you should put in your home gym. And more importantly, which ones you should skip. What's up everyone, this is Dylan with Plates&Profits, where I help you build your home gym for less. If that sounds interesting to you, go ahead and maybe hit subscribe. Let's go ahead and dive into today's video. But before we dive in, we have to keep this fair. To find the winner for your gym, I'm putting every single set through these 5 benchmarks. First one is going to be the investment. How much are you actually spending for these dumbbells? Number 2 is the knurling on these, for those that have knurling. And I actually have a Knurl scale that I'll be using, which is right here. Number 3 is going to be the droppability of each of these dumbbells. Number 4 is going to be a little bit of a speed test, seeing how quickly they can adjust from 45 pounds down to 20 pounds. And then 5th is going to be the size of the dumbbells. First and foremost, we are going to be looking at the professional standard, the Rep times Pepin adjustable dumbbell. This is the set that you buy once and never have to replace. It's the closest thing to a commercial grade fixed dumbbell that can fit in your home gym. So let's go through our categories. Number 1, we're talking about the investment you're making with this. These start at $900 for a 65-pound pair and go all the way up to $1,500 for a 125-pound pair. It is nice because they sell upgrade kits, so you could start at that 65 and slowly work your way up. The stand runs about $300 as well. All in, you're looking at about $1,800 for these dumbbells. This is definitely falling into that buy once, cry once category. I should also note these come with a lifetime warranty, which just gives you that nice peace of mind. If something ever does happen, you're set. Let's talk about the knurl next on these. These come with a volcano knurl. I compared it in my breakdown to the Ohio Power Bar. It is a fairly aggressive knurl. On our knurl scale here, I'm gonna give it a 3. So that's something to keep in mind. It kind of has an aggressive knurl. If you're into more of a passive knurl, this handle might not be for you. The droppability scale. This is where these are going to really excel. These things are tanks. I feel pretty confident dropping them. I should say I would feel pretty confident dropping them. If you're someone who drops dumbbells, this is a great set for you. And this is going to be our speed test. So these do adjust with a pop pin system. You have to adjust it on both sides here. And then there's also a 2.5-pound adder weight. So when we're going from 45 down to 20, you are going to have to take out the adder weights. And looking at the bulk factor on these are really where these truly shine. They are so compact for how much weight they have. Looking at a set that goes from 10 to 125 pounds in a very compact space is truly impressive and really puts them kind of at the top of the class here. And just a little note, as you're using these, I love that they have a fairly flat surface, so when you're doing things like bench press, you can put the weights down on your quads, no problem. If you want to see a full breakdown of these Rep times Pepin and actually put head to head against an Alibaba set, click right here. In that comparison video, I talk about the noise that the Rep times Pepin makes. That's something you should be aware of. They are on the tad noisier side. So we're gonna just do a quick comparison on what all the dumbbells sound like. The Rep times Pepin and PowerBlocks were quite a bit noisier than the other options. The Rep QuickDraws were kind of right in the middle, and then the Alibaba dumbbells and MXselects were the winners in this regard. Both were very quiet. So if we were shopping in a grocery store, think of the Rep times Pepin as the name brands that you're seeing in the store. Think of the Rep times Pepin as the Captain Crunch. But sometimes the Berry Colossal Great Value brand is just as good. Is that the case with dumbbells? In the next category, we are going to be looking at our budget winners, and these are going to be the Alibaba Wildcards. And think of these as the great value. It's the high risk, high reward pick. You're getting 90% of the functionality of all the name brands for probably 40% of the cost. You are paying a pretty penny for shipping, and you're having to wait for these. Those are some of the drawbacks. Let's talk about that investment. This is the great value play. You can land a set of these for anywhere from $200 to $500 depending on the weight that you're choosing and the model that you want. Now, I have two sets right now that are very similar to the Knurl or even the Bells. One of these sets adjusts from 5 to 36 kilograms or 10 pounds all the way up to 80 pounds. I paid for this and the stand for roughly anywhere from ballpark, it's going to vary based on where you are, $450 to $550. And then I have another set in right now that adjusts from 5 to 100 pounds. With the stand, you're going to pay anywhere from $550 to $650. Again, you're waiting about a month and a half for shipping. You're having to find a supplier that you can trust, work with, read reviews when you're searching on that. If you want to see the whole ordering process, go ahead and click here to watch that video. But again, great value for those. Let's talk about the knurling on both of these. I'm going to put them at a 1.5 on the knurl scale for the 80-pound set and a 2 on the knurl scale for the 100-pound set, which is really what you want. The heavier the dumbbell, the more aggressive the knurl I want, and I think you should want too, because you want to have a good grip on that weight, especially when you're getting into heavier weights. All right, let's talk about the droppability scale now, and this is where these are going to take a bit of a hit. These do not feel like the most durable dumbbells. Any twist style handle, you're going to kind of run into that. The durability is always going to be semi in question. And these are no different. I wouldn't drop these. If you're someone who drops your dumbbells, that's fine, but don't get these dumbbells because they are not for you. Adjusting these from 45 to 20 is very seamless. That's why I personally really love the twist style handle, because I think it's just so intuitive and easy to use. And there is something satisfying about that little snap every time you adjust to a new weight setting. As far as bulkiness goes, I did get a set from Alibaba that was fairly bulky. And I really critiqued that in my video when I put them up against the Rep times Pepin. These two that I have in right now are not bad at all as far as bulk goes. They're just slightly longer than the Rep times Pepin and slightly wider in terms of diameter. But all in all, very compact and get a thumbs up from me. From a training standpoint, it's really nice for things like drop sets when you can put those weights back in the cradle and adjust to a lower weight almost instantly. You don't have to take out adder weights. You don't have to adjust pop pins. It's really simple, fast, and intuitive. Also being placed firmly in our budget wildcard section is the Bowflex Select Tech 552s. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos, you know I usually don't speak too highly about the Bowflex adjustable dumbbells. Now, in the past, I've had the 1090 set. And the reason why I don't speak too highly of them is it's kind of awkward. They get really long. However, with the 552 sets, it is not as noticeable. I also really enjoy that you get 2.5 pound adjustment increments all the way up to 25. So along with mentioning these as a budget wildcard, I think these are a great entry-level model for a beginner in the gym, someone who's just getting started, who's looking for a budget buy. Now, one thing I'll note is if you were to purchase these retail, they're going to cost $600 with the stand and $430 without the stand. So if you were to purchase at retail, I don't think these belong in the budget wildcard. However, the reason I'm including them in this section is these are by far the most common adjustable dumbbells that pop up on Facebook Marketplace and OfferUp. I'm all about buying things secondhand, and you can really find these a lot popping up secondhand. I got this particular set for $150. It also came with a flat bench. So if you were just getting started, this would be a great way to kick off your home gym. These would not be for you if you're someone who drops your dumbbells, as they are fairly fragile. But for a beginner on a budget, I think these are actually a really good option. The biggest cons that you'll find with the Bowflex is that even if you're using the lightest weight, you're still pulling that whole dumbbell handle. So no matter what, the length is always going to be pretty long. Between that and all these discs are plastic and commonly break, those are by far the biggest two factors. As far as knurling goes, the Bowflex come with this rubberized handle, which once again, if you're a beginner, this might be the handle for you. I personally prefer a knurled handle, so this is going to get a 0 on our knurl scale. Adjusting them is fairly seamless. You turn each dial to the weight you want on both sides. I messed up when I did this, so we should probably take off a second on one of the times here, but going down from 45 to 25 took about 10 seconds. It is not intimidating and a good entry-level adjustment mechanism. So we've seen the commercial quality and we've seen the wild cards. Next, let's go into the tried and true, the tanks. We are going to be looking at the PowerBlocks. PowerBlocks arguably invented the adjustable dumbbell game. They've been around for forever, and this set that I have currently is no different. This is definitely an older set of PowerBlocks, but you never know because of how durable and tanky they are. They have been around for forever, but they are still one of the adjustable dumbbells to beat. I'd make a quick note here that I don't have currently Iron Masters or Eisenlinks. Those are also tanks and definitely high on the durability factor, more durable than any of the ones I have here. For me personally, the slower adjustment time, I've tested both of them. It takes me almost a minute to adjust them. And again, that's not what I'm looking for, but they are fantastic dumbbells and really affordable, especially those Eisenlinks. So if those sound interesting to you, check them out. But if you want a dumbbell that can survive a nuclear winter or just a decade of garage gym abuse, then the PowerBlocks are definitely a set that you should consider. If you're tired of breaking plastic parts like with the Bowflex or the Alibaba set that I just went over, these are for you. So first, let's talk about the investment. And this one, there's some nuance to it. There's so many different PowerBlock variations that it's hard for me to just say a specific price. But we'll just say this, if you're going to get a pro model or just any of their models that adjust up to 90 pounds or 100 pounds, you're going to be spending about $1,000. And that's where I would come in because PowerBlocks have been around for forever and are super durable. They are a great option to look into buying secondhand. They pop up second most to Bowflex. They are always for sale. In fact, I did a comparison, Bowflex versus PowerBlocks. You can also check that out. But that is where I would look for them because of their durability. You don't have to worry about buying something that's not going to work because I paid for this 90-pound set that I'm using $200, and that changes the whole game. Number two is our Knurl rating, and most PowerBlocks come with a rubberized handle, so it's gonna fail the Knurl rating. But for most beginners, I think they would actually prefer a rubberized handle. The PowerBlocks rubberized handle is not too bad either as far as rubber handle goes, but they're gonna get a 0 on this Knurl rating. The droppability test, these are going to pass with pretty flying colors here. Every now and then I'll see people post photos of their urethane sets that have broken, and you don't know exactly how they do it, but for the most part, you can drop these, especially if you're doing things like rows. These are one of the sets that you should consider. As far as adjusting these go, it is fairly quick. They use a pin system where you pull the pin out and go to the corresponding color. You'll get hung up, and as you'll see me doing here, there are 2.5-pound adder weights. If you need to adjust by 5, you need to go down to the lowest weight, slide out the adder weights, and then put it in here. The more you do it, the faster you'll get at it, but it's still an extra step that I don't love to have to take. Just keep that in mind. If you're going up by 10 pounds, it's fairly quick. And the last one we're going to talk about is the bulkiness of these. And this is, again, where they're going to excel quite a bit. They're pretty slim in profile. They have a nice flat ending surface, so if you're doing things like bench press, it's easy to put those up against your quads. And just from a training perspective, something to keep in mind, these are really nice for doing things like renegade rows, if you're doing planks, using them as push-up handles. Because they have a flat surface, they're going to stay flat on the floor as you use them. So take that into account if you like those kind of workouts, renegade rows and things like that, then PowerBlocks might be the set for you. So now we've looked at the industry standard rep times Pepin, the budget Wildcard, Alibaba, and Bowflex, the tried and true tanks of PowerBlocks. Let's move on to the new kid on the block, which is the MXselect 55s. This is the new model of the MXselect, and I think they've made some really tasteful upgrades. What's really cool about the 55-pound set is just how small the diameter is. If you look here, it is so small compared to all the other options. It even beats that rep times Pepin. This does come with some drawbacks, I think, as the length of them, it is fairly long. It's definitely the longest of the bunch. The compact diameter is really cool. If they're just a bedroom set, you could slide them under your bed quite a bit easier than a lot of the alternatives. So let's talk about the investment that you're going to pay for these, and this 55-pound set with rubberized handle costs $450. They also sell a knurled option, which is a 50-pound upgrade. So again, if you're a beginner, you might prefer that rubberized set, but me personally, I'd much rather have the knurled handle. I actually purchased these secondhand, which is the only reason why they're rubberized. The droppability ranking, I'm not quite sure on these. I'm not going to test it to find out though. They do look like they have quite a bit of internals. As far as adjustment speed, these are pretty quick to adjust. They have two pop pins, and for what it's worth, the pop pins are really satisfying to press. I don't know, Again, this is obviously a personal preference, but when I press them, it's a satisfying thing. And then you just twist the handle. It's very easy to see for a beginner. This would be another friendly thing to adjust, and fairly quick. No add-on weights that you have to put on, so really cool and seamless there. And then as far as the bulk factor, how much space are these going to take up? We touched on this kind of really slim diameter, but they are quite lengthy. So if you're someone who doesn't like having long dumbbells in your hands, these are probably not for you, but if you're looking into space saving in different ways, then they could be a solid option. I would say overall, these are really good and feel like a traditional dumbbell. So if you're someone who doesn't like cages and things like that, it's cool that they have a cageless design. It's going to feel like you're lifting a normal dumbbell, which is really nice. And as far as new kids on the block, we're also going to be covering our last dumbbell to review, which is the Rep QuickDraws, which is another very newer model of adjustable dumbbell that came onto the market right before they released the Rep times Pepin. And I feel like they didn't get a lot of publicity for that reason. The Rep times Pepin kind of stole the thunder, but the Rep QuickDraws are definitely worthy of our consideration and looking into. Let's talk about the investment for the Rep QuickDraws. They actually sell a 30-pound set. If you were to buy that, it costs $335. And it ranges all the way up to 60 pounds, which costs $576. And just to compare it to those MXselect, the 50-pound variation of the MXselect with knurled handle costs $500, and the Rep QuickDraw is $495. So those are two pretty good competitions to put up against each other. I really wish I had the knurled handle of the MXselect to give a more accurate comparison there. But as far as the knurled handle goes on the Rep QuickDraw, I think it's fantastic. It might be my favorite. I'm gonna give this a 2 on our knurl rating. It's not quite as aggressive as the Rep times Pepin, but it still has some good bite to it. It feels like you have a really secure, solid grip. One thing I'll note is the dumbbell length of the handle is fairly long. If you're someone who likes a smaller length dumbbell handle, then the Rep QuickDraws might be a little too long for you. As far as droppability goes, Rep literally has a test where they threw these off of a building and they remained intact. So I think you're pretty safe to drop these ones, very durable. So if that's something important to you, maybe that's gonna tip the scales to you for the Rep QuickDraws over the MXselect. And this is where the Rep QuickDraws kind of have their calling cards. They're called QuickDraws because they hype up their fast adjustment speeds. And that's true for the most part. There is kind of a learning curve. And for someone who might be a beginner, it might almost be slightly intimidating to look at. It almost looks like you're looking at a breaker box in a house. There's tons of switches that you can flip and unlock and lock. But after a workout or two, it's really pretty easy to use and you'll get the hang of it. One thing I'll note is they always hype up their speed, but they do have adder weights that you have to add in. So once again, similar to PowerBlocks, if you're going up by 10 pounds, it's pretty quick. But when you have to add the adder weights, it does add just an extra layer here. You can kind of see as I'm adjusting these, you're having to add the adder weights, make sure you lock them in place as well. That's a quick tip too. If you don't lock those adder weights in, then as you're doing movements, they'll fall out. So keep that in mind. As far as the bulk factor goes on these, the smaller the weight, it feels pretty good, but as you get pretty large, I do think they feel kind of bulky. They're extra long. And then also I've been mentioning when you're doing presses, having something flush to put up against your quads when you're doing it. These have a fairly protruding triangular connection point that protrudes out and kind of digs into your quads as you're doing that bench press test. So those are just things to be aware of when you're considering these dumbbells. Let's kind of run through all these awards and things that I've given out here. If you want the absolute best and money is no object, get the Rep times Pepin. If you are on a strict budget, but don't really want to sacrifice too much quality, then I'd take the Alibaba Wildcards. I think they are a fantastic set. I love mine personally, and I really don't think you can go too wrong for the value you're getting. Or buy secondhand. I love buying things secondhand, so you can't go wrong with that either. As far as most durable, I am going to give this to the PowerBlocks just simply because for how long they've been around and how many sets I've owned of PowerBlocks that have been around for forever, they can really take a beating and they're tried and true. The Rep times Pepin are fairly new and I don't think I can give it the gold crown just yet. And again, I'm gonna note here really quickly, the Iron Master and Eisenlink would probably take the cake here, but I put those almost in a different category of adjustable dumbbells. As far as fastest changing goes, both sets of Alibaba twist style handles took the crown for our quick change test. One thing to note is I specifically chose going from a 5-pound increment to a 10-pound increment because I knew a lot of these plates had adder weights. So for the rep times Pepin, the rep QuickDraw, and the PowerBlocks, you would see a lot faster times if it was 50 down to 20. Including a weight where you had to remove the add-on weights, I thought was fair to show the limitations with that adjustment style. All in all, they're all fairly quick. And with how similar it is, I would say, I think this comes down to personal preference. I really like the twist style handles. Someone like my dad has tendonitis in his wrist and he doesn't like using that. He has rep quick draws actually, and he speaks very highly of them. Someone could also consider those MXselect almost clock style system. I think that's a really fun system that I personally enjoy. Those are just some factors and things that you should consider when you're purchasing your adjustable dumbbells. For me, which set am I gonna keep of these? That's a good question. And I'm still weighing some of these things in my mind. But I am heavily leaning towards keeping one of my Alibaba sets. Probably the set that adjusts from 5 to 100 pounds. It checks all the boxes that I'm personally looking for. I am also someone who just loves finding a good deal. And again, this all comes down to personal preferences, and that's something that gives me some satisfaction. So if I can kind of feel like I'm getting a good deal out of something, it brings some extra joy to me. So for me, that is likely the set that I'll be keeping, which is probably a surprise to some of you. I hope you all found this enjoyable to watch and learned something new about one of these adjustable dumbbell sets, and maybe decided which set is right for you. I do think it's important to remember that all of these things are going to accomplish the same goal for you if you use them, and that's the most important thing. Get the set that you're going to enjoy, that you're going to be happy when you walk in your home gym and you see whichever set you're going to enjoy using. That's the most important thing. It doesn't matter if I said I love the twist style mechanism, if you hate it. So that's the most important thing. Go with the set that's going to bring you the most joy every time you're training, and go make some gains. Have some fun in the gym. That's what it's all about. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing, give it a thumbs up. I'm doing my best to reach 500 subscribers. I'm getting close, so we're almost there. Let me know in the comments which set is gravitating to you, which one is calling your name, and get to training. I'm gonna continue posting videos. I've got some exciting Alibaba updates coming up on these orders that I've been ordering, so looking forward to seeing y'all then. I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.